going on, guys? Blazing here, and today we've got another raid Shadow Legends video. So first things first, we're going to address the elephant in the room. We are going to have a guaranteed void legendary. Guaranteed champions in general are not a bad idea, right? But ever since the Fortis guaranteed, I feel especially the void ones have been really crap. You had Fortis, I believe, was what, 80 or 90 shards. Even after they claimed that they were going to fix him, he's still not really usable. He's not plat material. He's not. I don't even have an area in the game where I would use him. And unfortunately, I was one of the ones that did go for it because I was like, oh, well, they might be a Baron fix. You never know. We got baited, in my opinion. Second, we had a Lil, where they took it from 80 to 90 shards to 110. And I did not participate in that, even though Lil is a semi-decent champion because of the ignore stone skin and granting stone skin on themselves. I still think that that was a really scummy thing to do, to give us almost a 30% increase in how many shards you needed. And then they kept up with it. They kept up with it, and we are going to have a guaranteed void legendary for Chaguur for 110 shards. Now, this is ridiculous. They're being really, really greedy, right? The main reason why they're doing this, and they didn't do it before, is because of Sand Devil's Necropolis. Now, I want to show you guys how I feel about Sand Devil's Necropolis. And I am the proud owner of a +2 Ramandu, which means I had 2 Chaguurs, and I fed them into Ramandu. I couldn't give a rat's tail about Sand Devil's Necropolis. You want to send my gear? Even if I did it every day, at some point, it's going to be dead content because I can only level up pieces one time. If it's a bad roll, I can't re-roll it. So, that said, Chaguur for 110 void shards is a no for me. I implore you, if you are one of those ones that's thinking about it, don't do it. 110 shards, even though it is less than pity, is still a lot. The precedent was set at 80 to 90, and that was a good number. But the fact now that you want to do 110 shards, so you value that champion who's only good in one area of the game at almost a $300 value, or $350, is insane. Forget the fact that he needs how many books? Let's take a quick look. Stop giving me the pop-up offers. He needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books. So you're telling me this champion is worth roughly $500? I don't think so. I could find a lot more things to do with $500 that I'd enjoy with. Anyways, got my rant out of the way. I again implore you, do not go for this, please. But we are going to have a 10x on some decent champions. Now, 10x's are not the times you want to pull, especially because it's not doing a fusion. So if it was a 2x 10x, where you have the 2x to get a legendary or an epic with a 10x after it, which they've done sometimes, then I'd say yes. But not for this. So the first one is going to be Deacon Armstrong. He's great for progression. He's great in Clan Boss. He's actually, even in the end game, still used quite a bit. He brings a decreased defense, turn manipulation, and a leech on the A1 with a solid aura. I use him in my Dark Fate team. I use him for Faction Wars. You can use him in the Demytha comp for Clan Boss, so he's definitely a good one. Next one is actually one of my favorite champs, Bannerlord Stagnite. So Stagnite brings a decreased defense and a decreased attack. He brings in a decreased speed, which is huge, especially in the end game. He's great for Fire Knight. His A1 hits 2 times and places the decreased speed, so slows down Fire Knight quite a bit. And then his passive gives you extra accuracy if you don't land a debuff. So the next one is actually from the Sylvan Watchers. We have, where is he? Is it? Yes, Miss Rider Dave. New champ. Overall, decent. Brings a decreased defense for 2 turns. Grants a extra turn if the decreased defense is placed on all enemies by this skill. Places an increased attack and an increased accuracy on this champion, then grants an extra turn. And then his A1 attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of removing 1 debuff from the target. Also has a 10% chance of granting this champion an extra turn with accuracy aura in all battles. Decent champ. I haven't really messed around with him too much, but he's worth building out just to test out, So we'll probably do that soon. The next one is, or was a must for a long time if you wanted to do Arena, which is Madame Cerise. She has a Fear on the A1, 20% chance of placing a Fear debuff for 1 turn. This chance increases to 30% if the target is under 1 debuff, and then 45% chance if the target's under 2 debuffs. The A2 attacks all enemies, has a 40% chance of stealing 1 random buff from each target, places a block debuff on all enemies for 2 turns if any buff is stolen, places a True Fear debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have buffs stolen. And then her A3, which is what makes her, or made her really strong in Arena, was removes all buffs, places a 50% decreased attack and a 60% decreased defense. The nice part was, when it was a speed meta, you didn't need to book her. Not that she took a lot of books anyways, I think it was a total of 10, but yeah, you didn't really need to book her. And then her passive places a shield on this champion equal to 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn. When attacked under a shield buff, has a 35% chance of placing a Fear debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. So, and now we've got the legendaries. So this next one, I think, was one of the best fusions that we had out there. He counters Warlords quite a bit. Herndeg. So A1 attacks, grants an extra turn if it kills an enemy. Grants an extra turn and decreases the cooldown of Status Strike by 2 turns if this kills an enemy. It very well can a lot of the times. I do use him in my Dark Fating, so he's pretty strong there. A2 attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense and a 50% decreased accuracy. For the Dark Fae, that's actually kind of good because she won't land the fears, so you don't have to worry about losing a turn. His A3 attacks 1 enemy, fully depletes the target's turn meter, will also attack all enemies if the first attack is critical. This AoE attack has a 75% chance of placing a 25% weaken, so the big version of weaken, debuff for 2 turns. Will also place an HP burn for 2 turns after the attack on all enemies whose turn meters are below 30%. So, and then his passive is fills this champion's turn meter by 10% every time they are hit, occurs once per turn, once per hit. So it's not per turn, so it's per hit. So if the boss hits you twice, or you have somebody that hits you twice, he gets a 20% turn meter. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 20% whenever an ally dies. So, and he's got a 35% attack aura in Arena. So overall, a really solid champ. Great nuker for faction wars. So then we have our next one, which is actually, I just did a champion spotlight on him, Ragash. He is a defensive base nuker. He can actually solo Skinwalker's Faction Wars, and no problem. And he does it at a decent time too. I think he did mine in like under 2 minutes. So A1 attacks one enemy 2 times, places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion. Basically means, for 2 turns, basically means he's always going to have increased defense up at all times. A2 attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense on each enemy for 2 turns before attacking. So he's going to decrease your defense and then attack. Also has a 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn after attacking. So you won't have to worry about the ads or anyone else hitting you back afterwards, because if they're still up, he's going to just keep them stunned unless they're high resist. Then his A3 places a 25% strengthen, so it's the big version, right? Strengthen's great because it reduces 25% of all the damage taken. And a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also places a perfect veil on this champion for 2 turns. So he hides himself, and he gives a strengthen and an increased speed to the whole team. His passive, at the start of each turn, places a perfect veil on one perfect veil buff for 1 turn on an ally with the highest attack, basically protecting your nuker. I think this passive's kind of counterintuitive, because if you're bringing Ragash in, he's already going to be your defensive base nuker. I don't think you're going to want to run a defensive base nuker and an attack nuker, right? Inflicts 20% damage against targets whose defense is lower than this champion's. If you build him right, then everybody's defense is going to be below his unless they're defensive base. So, and then his aura is increases ally defense in 30% by all battles. So then the next one we have is actually somebody I use for Hydra quite often. I think he reminds me of Ghost Rider, just because of the way the head flames are, but it's Michinaki, right? A1 attacks an enemy, has a 50% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. His A2 attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a decreased defense and a decreased attack for 2 turns on enemies who have a hex buff. So he'll place the decreased defense, and then if there's a hex debuff on them, he's going to place the decreased attack. His A3 is attacks all enemies. The first hit will attacks all enemies 2 times. The first hit's going to remove all buffs. Second hit is going to put a hex debuff out there for 2 turns. So this is really good in Hydra, especially. I let the Mischief Head steal my buffs, and I pair him with a Lady Kimmy, and it's either block debuffs are going to be out or hex is going to be out, so he's going to steal him. And then it also allows you to be able to target the Mischief Head. And then his passive, which is awesome. Whenever an ally attacks an enemy under hex debuff, this champion has a 50% chance to team up and join the attack with him. Basically, especially in Hydra, you can keep every head under HP burn, right? Pair him with Ninja, and it's glorious to see what they can do. And then the last one, this champ used to be a arena specialist. You would run her in like a really slow build, right? In either a Guardian set or a Regeneration set, or what was the other set that you run? There was another set that you would want to run her in, basically just soaking up the damage, right? Helping you survive those nukes. But it's Ursula Warcaller. A1 attacks all enemies, has a 45% chance of placing a block active skills for 1 turn. Strong A1, basically locking out anybody for 1 turn. A2 attacks all enemies. This is kind of a funky A2 because it's conditional to what it's going to do depending on attack and defense base, right? So attacks all enemies, places a 25% crit damage debuff and a 50% decrease attack on targets whose attack is higher than their defense. So basically, if they're attack based, they're going to get a decreased crit damage and a decreased attack. Places a 30% decreased speed and a 60% decreased defense on targets whose attack is lower to their defense. So basically, your supports, your defensive nukers, right? Those are the ones that we're going to get the decreased defense. And that's on a 3-turn cooldown. And then what really makes her shine is her A3, which places an ally protect on all allies for 3 turns, places a 25% strengthen. Now strengthen again, 25% less damage, paired with an ally protection on a 3-turn cooldown. That is huge. I mean, if you get her for Clan Boss, it's basically you have damage mitigation for the whole team all the time. And then her passive, it decreases the damage all allies receive from critical hits by 30%. This champion will receive that damage instead. So the way you would build her bat and this play time is just really high HP, tanky. Now most people build her in either a stone skin set or a bolster. So, yeah, there you have it, guys. Would I pull for any of these champs? Not really. None of them, in my opinion, are game-changing. Maybe Ragash, I would say, and Michinaki would be helpful for account progression. Most of the other ones are, I mean, Stagnat's been power crept, Madame's been power crept, Deacon is still solid, like I said, all the way through the end game. But I would not go out of my way to pull for any of these, especially since we have a fusion that's coming up next week, right? And then as for the guaranteed void legendary, I think it's absolute garbage of what they're doing. We do have, I believe it's a 2x voids, not this week, but next week, which coincides with the fusion. So unless they try to do something sneaky where they take the champion chase out of the fusion like they did the last time, then I'd be really upset. But I think I would definitely wait because Valentine's Day is going to be just around the corner. And they do have a habit of doing some crazy 2x, 10x type things for lover pairs. So, yeah. Don't forget, guys, we are still doing the gem giveaway on Saturday. So I will pin the videos for both of those in the comments down below, or in the description down below. If you haven't already joined, feel free. And we will be pulling them on Saturday. So, till next time, catch you later. Bye.